So, how do you actually teach someone to be a good citizen? Like, are you just born with it? Or is it a skill you can literally break down, codify, and, teach in a classroom? Welcome to The Explainer, everyone. I'm super thrilled you're here because today we're diving into exactly how one institution attempts to answer that massive, honestly, incredibly important question.
We're decoding the anatomy of a citizen, decoding the CPSU NSTP manual. We're doing a deep dive into the Central Philippine State University, CPSU for short, and their National Service Training Program Operational Manual. Now, this isn't just your standard basic collegiate rulebook. No way. It's actually this fascinating blueprint for nation building, deeply rooted in Philippine law, specifically Republic Act 9163. It literally outlines, step by step, how an incoming freshman gets molded into an active, responsible agent of the state. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our agenda for the explainer. 1. The goal of NSTP. 2. 3 paths to serve. 3. Focus on citizenship training. 4. Rights, duties, and symbols. And 5. Core values and volunteering. Section 1. The goal of NSTP, building the foundation of nation building. Now, the National Service Training Program is an academic graduation requirement for tertiary students in the Philippines, sure, but the CPSU manual frames it as something much, much bigger than just checking a box. It's actually positioned as a vital, active tool for social change. I mean, just look at the sheer ambition of this quote, straight from the manual's specific objectives: to develop efficient, civic-conscious, and highly motivated NSTP committed towards social transformation. The stakes here are absolutely massive. The university isn't just trying to churn out graduates who can pass a multiple-choice test. They're actively seeking to create leaders and volunteers who can literally be called upon by the nation. They want to transform society by, well, first transforming the student. Section 2. 3 paths to serve: ROTC, CWTS, and LTS. When an incoming freshman enters the program at CPSU, they aren't just handed some rigid one-size-fits-all schedule. Instead, they're actually presented with a choice on exactly how they want to contribute to their nation. Let's move to and see how this builds across the 3 distinct service components mandated by law. First up, we have ROTC, the Reserve Officers Training Corps. This one provides military training and really focuses on national defense preparedness. Next, there's CWTS, the Civic Welfare Training Service, which focuses on programs that better the general welfare of the community. Think health, education, entrepreneurship, and the environment. And third is LTS, the Literacy Training Service. Here, students are actually trained to teach functional literacy and numeracy skills to kids and out-of-school youth. So you've got 3 very different paths, but they all lead toward the exact same goal of national service. Moving on to Section 3, focus on citizenship training, the common denominator. We're now funneling down into what is essentially the absolute beating heart of the NSTP curriculum. Citizenship training is a mandatory 25-hour common module for all students regardless of their chosen path. It really doesn't matter if you chose to march in ROTC, build community gardens in CWTS, or teach math in LTS. For the first 25 hours, everyone sits together. This module is literally the inescapable DNA of the entire curriculum. It establishes a crucial baseline of shared knowledge before these students branch out into their specific fields of service. So the crucial point is that this training is carefully designed to build foundational traits that every single student absolutely must possess before they do anything else. It enhances civic consciousness, develops an ethics of service, instills patriotism, and promotes defense preparedness. The manual makes it super clear that the state recognizes the youth as its most valuable resource. And these 25 hours, they're all about cultivating their physical, moral, spiritual, and intellectual well-being. All right, Section 4. Rights, duties, and symbols, the legal blueprint of a citizen. Because, let's be honest, you can't really be a good citizen if you don't understand the fundamental rules of the society you live in, right? And this brilliantly illustrates the careful balance taught in this module. On one hand, students study the Bill of Rights from the 1987 Philippine Constitution, the protections, privileges, and freedoms guaranteed to them by the state. But right next to it, they study the duties and responsibilities of a Filipino citizen. It's a perfect, totally necessary balance. It teaches the youth that the rights you hold are inextricably linked to the duties you owe to your community and to your country. Alongside the Constitution, they also study Republic Act No. 8491, better known as the Flag Heraldic Code of the Philippines, which dictates the proper respect and usage of national symbols. Now, while that might sound like just a boring list of rules about how to fold or hoist a flag, In the context of nation building, it's actually a massive tool of empowerment. It fosters this deep shared respect for the nation's identity and history, acting as a visual and symbolic anchor for the patriotism they're trying to instill in these students. Which brings us to Section 5, Core Values and Volunteering, the heart of social transformation. Here, the manual shifts our focus away from the strict legal duties of a citizen and points it toward their internal moral compass and real-world boots-on-the-ground action. Because think about it, knowing your rights and respecting the flag is really only half the battle. The other half is what you actually do for others. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the curriculum distills the ideal citizen into 4 core Filipino values. Let's look at them closely. We have Maka Dios, which means being pro-God or having a spiritual foundation. Then there's Maka Tao, meaning pro-people or humanitarian. Maka Likasan, which is pro-nature or environmental. And Maka Banza, meaning pro-country or nationalistic. These aren't just feel-good buzzwords, guys. They are the absolute fundamental pillars of the Good Citizenship Values module. They're meant to shape the very character and the daily actions of the students. But how do those internal values actually manifest in the real world? Well, through frameworks like Republic Act No. 9418, the Volunteer Act of 2007. This is a law promoting volunteerism as a deliberate strategy for national development. This act is essentially the engine, right? It takes those 4 core internal values, Maka Dios, Maka Tao, Maka Kalikasan, and Maka Bansa, and turns them into outward, highly impactful community service. Ultimately, all the legal studies of the Constitution, the 25 hours of mandatory common training, and the distinct service paths of ROTC, CWTS, and LTS, they all point toward this singular, powerful vision from the CPSU manual to produce students that are civic conscious, service-oriented, and with enhanced intellectual, moral, spiritual, technical, and social well-being. And there you have it. That is the completed anatomy of a citizen, according to this curriculum. It's such a fascinating, deeply structured approach to nation building, isn't it? One that relies on both rigorous classroom education and hands-on, localized service. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over long after we're done here. How will you apply these core values to transform your own community? Just something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into the CPSU NSTP manual, and I'll see you next time.